It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. We've got the latest news from Microsoft, including finally the absorption of Nokia. What's next for Nokia, or aka Windows Mobile? We'll also talk about an update for Skype and OneDrive for Business. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 360, recorded April 30th, 2014. Rattle and Hummus. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. Get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code WINDOWS when you check out. And by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster, easier, and cheaper. Post your job to 50-plus job boards with one click. Try ZipRecruiter for a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. And by ITProTV. Are you looking to upgrade your IT skills or prepare for certification? ITProTV offers engaging and informative tutorials streamed to your Roku, computer, or mobile device for 30% off the lifetime of your account. Go to itpro.tv/WW and use the code WW30. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers Microsoft, Windows, phones, Surface, Xbox, everything in the Microsoft ecosystem. And, of course, we've got the two best commentators on this subject every week. Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. Hi, Mary Jo.
Hi, Leo.
And Paul Thurrott of Call of Duty fame.
Hello, Leo.
He's also.
What the hell were we doing for the past 15 minutes?
See, it felt like a show, didn't it? Hey, whoever edits this, just stick that at the end. Paul and Mary Jo and I were going over my new phone, which I really quite like, the Nokia 1520. It is massive.
I'm back.
And I did the thing that somebody recommended. Like maybe it was Alex, which is I made Facebook. So you could various apps could be your lock screen, and Facebook's my lock screen, which is nice. I still get my calendar here. You have some control of that. This is a gorgeous device with a screen this size. It really is a tablet as much as a phone.
And when we see some of those universal apps coming down the pike, it's going to get really interesting, right? When Microsoft Office is available for this thing, the full-blown Office.
Right.
Not just the mobile version.
Right.
I mean, that could potentially, this thing with a keyboard, assuming they provide that support, could be a very interesting solution.
This competes strongly with the small tablets.
Yeah, yeah.
With the 8-inchers.
You can run Microsoft Remote Desktop on this thing and, RD into your PCs and servers.
Right. And at this size screen, I feel like it's still portable because Nokia's made it so thin. People say it's heavy. I don't know. I mean, I guess your icon's heavy, or it doesn't feel heavy. And it's still, for me, to fit in my shirt pocket is the key, and it does. Right. I know for women that's not going to be, a measure. But, and I don't think I look completely stupid talking into it. And you know what?
How much look smart because you're holding a Lumia.
I'm holding a giant phone. Right. But how much do people even use these as phones? I mean, that's a minor part of it. It's a computer. So it seems.
Do you have a case on it or no?
I ordered a case, but it's so. I hate to put a case on it.
Yeah, I know.
You know me. So I'm pretty happy with this. I do love the new swipe key. You know what really put me over the top was I wasn't going to use another Windows Phone until 8.1 came up. And I did put 8.1 on it, according to Paul's instructions, immediately. The official approved method. And Cortana is doing a great job. The swipe keyboard means, for me now, this is totally usable. And as I mentioned before the show began, the only issue for me at all on this, I love it in so many ways, is the kind of weak support for the Google ecosystem, which you can't blame Microsoft for. That's right. Google.
Yep. There are rumors now that Apple is talking about maybe putting iTunes on Android and everything, but I would love the world to be a little more agnostic, where this stuff was just around. Microsoft does a really good job of this by necessity, of course, but their apps, a lot of them are on iOS and a little bit less are on Android, although that's going to change over time. I'd love to see that reciprocated. You know, it would just make for such a better experience for everybody.
Love.
Yeah.
Why can't we just all get along, Leo?
So now my phone says Nokia. In fact, one of the reasons I bought it when I did is I wanted to get it before it was a Microsoft mobile device. So it says Nokia here. Kind of, you can't really see it, but it says Nokia on the back. It doesn't have a lot of branding, and really, probably the most prominent brand is the Windows logo at the bottom center, the home key. Is this going to go away now that Microsoft owns mobility? Is it going to start saying Microsoft Mobile on here? Oi,
No.
oi. They still have the right to use this name.
It's not clear. Yeah, for 10 years. I mean,
Right. And we don't know what they're going to rebrand it as, and they may not even know, but it's probably not going to say Microsoft. I bet it's not going to say Microsoft Mobile on your phone.
They've kind of confirmed that because the Microsoft Mobile OI name was apparently a legal entity they had to set up to do the transfer of ownership from Nokia to Microsoft in Finland. And I believe Stephen Elop came up and said that explicitly. Like, this is not the name. We have not, we being Microsoft, have not figured out yet what the brand will be. But I would expect, should Microsoft release what would have been Nokia devices this summer, they'll probably just say Nokia Lumia, whatever, or Nokia Asha. I'm sure they'll continue, for at least a short term using that brand.
Or at least they'll say Lumia, right? Like, that's the brand they bought. They bought the rights to have Nokia be the name with Asha phones, but I think on Lumia is just a year, maybe.
It doesn't say Lumia anywhere on this device.
I know.
It says Nokia. Right. It says Nokia. It says PureView Zeiss.
Yep.
It does.
Yes.
How would you even know this was a Lumia?
Is this a Lumia? I don't know. Is it? Oh, it is.
It's
okay.
Remember when ThinkPad was bought by Lenovo, and the IBM logo changed, and it was weird at first. You know,
they get used to it.
Right.
Yeah, you get used to it.
People don't buy a
Lumia
phone.
logo in there would be easy enough. I mean,
they don't buy a phone because of the logos. In fact, I like it that doesn't have a lot of logos on it. Frankly, I don't want the logos.
Doesn't look like a NASCAR race car with
right. Now, I should mention a couple of things. This is an unlocked version, but it's compatible with US LTE bands, and that means it was a Mexican version. So when I got it, it was in Spanish. I got it from Newegg. It was in Spanish, and it thought I was in Mexico. And the good news, there was some question: does it support Qi charging? It does, and I have my nice little tilt stand that is a Qi charger, and this is a great stand for it because it's upright and I can use it. I mean, it's a good enough screen. I can literally have this on my desktop and have it be a second screen.
Just by the way, just to give you an idea of how minimalist, and no one's going to be able to see this, the branding is. Even when you have I got this on AT&T, you won't be able to see it. I'll show it to you, but you won't see it. At the very top, you can kind of see it.
Barely.
It's on the other side here. This little thing.
Barely. Yeah.
That's an AT&T logo.
It looks like a camera sensor. It doesn't.
That's the extent of it.
Yeah. I'm glad. That's how it should be. I guess well, this is the other thing that took a little while getting used to. You don't actually see the carrier information unless you pull it down. But I love that.
Right.
That's how it should be. It isn't a NASCAR fire suit. It's my phone.
Right.
So aesthetically extraordinarily pleasing in every regard. Hardware is great. Camera is 21 megapixels and really looks great. It's a little slow. Maybe that'll be fixed. Is that a firmware fix or a hardware fix? Sounds like it's a hardware fix. But who knows?
Yeah,
I like it. If you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, there's just no question. If you're using a Surface, if you use Azure or Office 365, it's a no-brainer. Ironic, though, that there are better iPad apps for Office than there is for the Windows Phone.
So far, but that's going to change.
Yeah,
right.
Coming soon.
Still is odd.
You still
it's
get
odd
Office
from
Mobile
for
free.
Yes, and it came with it, and that's nice. And I have a nice OneNote. In fact, OneNote could really effectively replace Evernote on this, although it does have Evernote. All the big apps are on here now.
You got to be pragmatic, I think. I mean, iPad is the tablet that everyone's using, so
right. Yeah,
target that first.
Yeah, I guess. I love this. This is if you're in a darkened restaurant. This is a Nokia feature. they have a Nokia magnifier app that uses the camera.
I love that app. I've been using that a lot.
So I can read.
I need that every single day of my life.
Yep.
This is
awesome.
Brilliant. Everybody over 40 should own this or own a Nokia
This bartender
phone.
I know handed me a bill last weekend, and it was like the ink was running out on the bill, on the printer.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this, a practical joke? It's like, there's almost no light in here at all. The difference between the printing and the paper is like 1 degree of separation,
Every restaurant menu from now on, I will be able to
Yeah, you
read.
should look at Office Lens too, Leo. That lets you take a snapshot of like menus or whiteboards, and it saves it in a way that you can read it really easily later.
I saw that, and I wasn't sure what the hell that was. Okay.
Yeah, that's an awesome app. I use that a lot too.
Okay. That's another little bitty issue, which is like, okay, what does that mean? So,
Yeah, like for me, like a lot of times I'm taking pictures of beer menus for some reason, and
I don't know.
they're all like crumpled up and stained.
Rachel just keeps falling into bars somehow. It's
I don't
And then,
understand
I
it.
take a picture with Office Lens, and then it rearranges it and centers it and makes it so readable and easy to just email off to someone and say, hey.
So
it is crazy how it does that, by the way. Yeah, it doesn't just take it centers it if it's off to the side or whatever.
Does.
So
It does a
it's
really good
designed
job.
for like whiteboards. So you take a picture of a whiteboard, and then it would create really a document out of it, which I guess explains the word office. But to me, office shouldn't. They need a better name for this. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, I think their thought was a lot of people will do this to get it into notes, and
Yeah.
I distinctly remember this experience. I was at a meeting sometime, and someone had taken all these notes up on a whiteboard, and someone said, "Oh, this is why I have a tablet PC. I can, duplicate the notes in my notepad, my notebook." And I was like, "That's cute. That's why I have a digital camera." And like, click.
Exactly.
It's like, I guess I'm not Rembrandt. I mean, I just want a photo of the thing.
Yeah. This is good. It's really, for geeks, we like new platforms. We like to explore new platforms. It's like an adventure game. It's like, oh, I got a new game. And this has been that for me for the last week. And I have to say, I really quite enjoy it. It's very impressive. And I can see your icon is probably very similar to this.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Office Lens you're recommending, Office Lens.
Yes.
All right. It is now official, right? It happened on Friday. Nokia, now, fortunately, I know how to say Microsoft Mobile Oi. We have never said Nokia right, according to some, no matter how you say it. Some group will say, no, you're saying it wrong.
Right. So this is like one of those things we shouldn't stress over.
GIF, GIF, Nokia.
Well, that one we
Nokia.
know how to pronounce correctly. I mean, as far as Nokia goes, all I can say is I pronounce it exactly the way the CEO of the company pronounced it, so I'm not going to worry about correcting myself. Plus, by the way, they're gone, so who cares?
Right, who cares?
So
25,000 new employees, not 33,000.
Right.
8,000
That's
missing
because-
employees.
Yep, they didn't
They're
get
missing.
2 of the factories they thought they were going to get. One in Korea and the Chennai one in India. So they didn't acquire those 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a bit fewer people than we thought, but a lot of almost everything else was what we thought. Just as it was outlined when they announced the intention to buy them last fall, paying $5 billion for the handset, $2 billion for patents. Microsoft actually bought 8,500 patents outright from Nokia too.
You can never underestimate the value of patents. I mean, didn't Google essentially get Motorola patents, and they sold the rest of it off for whatever $7 billion. Right. But they sold the rest of it off. All they really wanted was the patents.
Yeah.
Cannot underestimate that.
Yeah, and they're still even on top of that. Microsoft's licensing another 30,000 patents from them as part of the deal.
It's kind of a shame that this is this patent thing is such a drag. That money could be put into R&D. It could be put into all sorts of good uses. Instead, it's put into
I assume you saw and have reported on the whole EU thing with patents and Motorola Mobility and their suit, I think, with Apple. And basically, the EU competition commissioner, I think it's Mario Monti still? Whoever it is now, said, you can't use these as a hammer to harm consumers with.
Right.
To which I thought, that's exactly what you use them for. What do you mean? I don't understand.
What else would you buy them?
I mean, right, they cost billions of dollars, of course. I mean, the point is to keep this technology from other companies. And I guess you could argue that hurts consumers because they can only buy that stuff from one company now.
One thing you could buy these for is defensive purposes. Say, look,
it's money. What's the guy's name? Almunia.
No,
sorry.
It's I know. I'm just trying a mental blank. It's not.
It's Mario
just
Monti.
Bing it. Come on.
It's Joaquin Almunia.
Thank you, Joaquin Almunia.
Where's he gone?
Well, you know, I'm gonna. If you don't mind me using Google, I'll just look for
Joaquin Almunia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Mario Monti's from like the 1990s. I'm having like a.
You're back in time as always.
Yep.
But you could buy patents not as an offensive weapon, but as a defensive weapon. Like, don't sue us, we've got patents, kind of thing.
And that's mostly how, believe it or not, that is mostly how Microsoft uses them.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Except for this. Well, okay.
Android thing. But even that, it's more a case of they show people what we've got. Hey, we've got this. Would you like to license it? Right. You don't see them really out and out suing that often.
Right.
Really?
Well, but I bet we also don't see as them threatening to sue all the time. I mean, I'm sure behind closed doors there are many threats.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not surprising that a company like Microsoft that, you know, is obviously not an open source company, has a lot of intellectual property, big fans of the patent system, you know, because they have, you know, thousands and thousands of employees that are just there to do this kind of stuff, you know.
I've lately been kind of in my mind thinking about this, not just patents, but also tax law.
Yeah.
That if the law allows it, a corporation has a fiduciary responsibility to its stockholders, to its employees, to do everything they can do that's legal.
Right.
And can you or can you not ask them to also act ethically? You know, even if they know as a company, well, it's kind of immoral to keep all of our money overseas so we pay less tax.
But we also have, but who's the ultimate responsibility to? It's the shareholders. And the way that you maximize value is by not paying taxes, by bringing that money back into the country. Yep.
And on a small scale, I do that.
Here's what I'll say to that, Leo.
Yeah.
If we're gonna make laws that say that corporations are people, then yes, we can have laws that say that corporations have to act ethically, just like people do. But we don't, and you know this is one of the fundamental flaws of our entire legal.
I think we all do this system. With our own taxes. We deduct everything we can legally. We pay. You don't want to
with abandon, Leo. But legally,
So I mean, we do it on an individual scale. You know, we write off everything we can. We pay no more than we absolutely are required to. It would be foolish to do otherwise, even if you know that's, you know, kind of ethically sketch. The law says it. And so if you've got a patent and the law is written this way, you should use it.
Antitrust isn't going to come after an individual because, you know, the $1,000 that means so much to me and means nothing to the government is meaningful in that way. Whereas companies that we're talking about now, like Microsoft or Apple or Google, are bigger than many governments and, you know, command much more money. I mean, I hear you. You can't blame a company for doing what's legally possible, but I also think we need to fix the system.
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, I debate this back and forth. I mean, on the one hand, you do want companies to act morally and ethically, but they have a responsibility to also maximize profits, and those may not be the same goals. And I don't think I think in order to,
I don't see how those could ever be the same goals.
It's up to Congress, I guess, to require ethical behavior, and if they don't, then it's interesting.
Oh, and now someone's going to say, but then we would have to require ethical behavior of Congress, and that's ludicrous, Leo.
That'll never happen. Okay. Anything else to say about Nokia? Where's Elop now? Is he still happy and fat and happy?
He's very happy today. He just got $33.4 million as his golden parachute.
So that's not.
I come into work after that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm confused. Is severance from Nokia?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. Yeah. So Microsoft is paying 70% of that severance, and Nokia is paying the rest. And yeah, a lot of people are pointing out, so wait, he left Microsoft, he went to Nokia, he now sold the company back to Microsoft, and he made $33 million for doing that. Huh. But yep, that's what happened.
I'd be careful of my car getting key scratched in the parking lot at Microsoft. It's reasonable for people to question this.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, and I like what he's done and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
as we were just saying, ethics, right? And if it's you want to get the maximum you can out of this. So he did, and now he is the head of Microsoft's devices unit. So that unit now has in it the part of Nokia that they bought, plus Surface, Xbox consoles, peripherals, and Perceptive Pixel, that really big touchscreen that they bought a while back. So all of those things are now under Stephen Elop in the devices unit.
And of those things that you just listed, which would you say have turned a profit over the past 10 years? Probably peripherals.
Keyboards?
Yeah. Right? It's probably the most profitable of all of those products. I mean, which is crazy.
I don't know about Perceptive Pixel because we haven't really heard a lot about that.
That's a big pile of money going down a tube. Who wants an 80-inch screen?
A lot of people want it, actually.
Okay.
And they have the 50-inch one, too.
Yeah, I want a sailboat, too, but I ain't buying one.
Yeah. And they're trying to bring the prices down on those and make it so that it's something everybody could potentially have one day. But, yeah, we haven't heard a whole lot about that. I think that's going to change in the next year or so.
Is that guy on CNN still or was it Fox, still using the...
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Are they?
Right.
I haven't watched the show. Does it still look like little tiny people with giant iPads?
Little people with big giant screens.
Those are the Perceptive Pixel displays, aren't they? Or no? Yeah?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Shepard Smith, I think his name is. I got to tune that show in. I actually removed that network from my lineup so I wouldn't act. You know why? I have a TiVo.
No, this is like an election night thing, Leo. That's when you want to see the screens.
We take you now to our election center.
So here's what's happening in this district, and they kind of scroll it over.
That I like, and CNN does that, the touchscreen. Although sometimes it doesn't work, and that's even more funny.
You see those screens at Microsoft though. When you're walking around campus, you just see them in random places.
It feels like the Surface to me.
Yeah, it is.
Well, the original Surface, the table Surface, you also see those around Microsoft, and it's the type of thing. It's only a matter of time before you see one out like in an alley next to a dumpster or like these.
Free Surface on the curb.
The cool new technology of yesterday is the throwaway, humongous, heavy table that nobody wants anymore.
Oh well, these things happen.
Yep.
Yeah, but Stephen Elop did an AMA this week
on Reddit.
It was very interesting.
Yep.
He didn't do it on Reddit. He did it
Reddit,
on the Conversations blog on Nokia.
Oh. And what did we learn?
What did we learn? We learned he is in favor of Microsoft keeping the Nokia X phones that are based on Android. Not too surprisingly, but he, just like Terry Myerson, said, you know what? A Microsoft customer is a Microsoft customer. And if they're using Nokia X to run Skype or to run Outlook.com or whatever, we're going to let them be Microsoft customers. I don't think that's going to make the Windows Phone development community too happy, but it seems to be the party line right now that they're going to keep those around. And it'll be interesting to see if they actually build more of those phones that are Android-based, or if this is just kind of, we're going to keep them around till we phase that out.
I mean, my only worry about that stuff is that it's fair to say that you buy it, especially these low-end phones, when you spend $100, $200, whatever it is, not a huge investment, not necessarily a huge business for any hardware maker, and that the real money is in these apps and services and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of those apps and services, no one's really paying for,
Right.
Yeah. And that's the trick, is getting people to, pay for services from Microsoft, whatever they may be, Office 365, extra storage on OneDrive, whatever. And I don't know, the type of person that's buying a Nokia X phone, I'm not really sure they're particularly interested in ponying up subscription fees every year.
Yep. That is going to be the trick. Or at least monetizing them by selling ads that they're going to see somehow. You know, they're going to do something to monetize this stuff. We just don't know. A subscription or a subscription plan, something. But yeah, right now you're right. They're not. A lot of those things are free. Like you get a lot of OneDrive storage for free. You're getting more and more of Skype for free now. So yeah, things that they used to charge for, they're giving away right now. So it is going to be interesting.
That's the modern world, right? You
it is.
Give it away to build clientele, to create an ecosystem that people want to be locked into or are willing to be locked into. That was the reason, I thought, for the Nokia X phones, wasn't it? Even though it's Android, we're going to lock you into, or at least get you started using OneDrive.
Yep. Well, we'll see if it works. And I suppose the other theory there is that obviously the people who are using that are disadvantaged in some ways. I mean, they're either living in a country that is emerging now or is a kind of a growth market, and they maybe are themselves not exactly rolling in dough. They're buying a $100 phone or whatever.
Right.
Maybe as life changes for them and they make more money, they'll move up to a Windows phone, into a Windows device, into other stuff. And I'm sure that's part of the theory as well. It's kind of like a gateway drug or an entry-level way to get into the ecosystem.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I see nothing wrong with that as long as you can afford it. And there's no company like Microsoft for that kind of thing. They don't need to beg for money from venture capitalists. They don't have to go to Peter Thiel and say, "Can I have $500,000 to make Skype free?"
So yeah, but I think the problem is a lot of people will tell you that Windows Phone 8.1 in particular on a Lumia 520 class device, it works great. And those devices are really cheap. You can buy one now in a retail store for like $69.
Right.
Without a contract.
So what do you need this other one for? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like Windows Phone has evolved both from a software platform perspective and from a hardware perspective into this market, if you will. And it could do this as well as, say, the Nokia X.
Right.
And I think that's why people take exception to the device.
He also, on the AMA, talked about the Trojan horse thing, what we were just talking about. Stephen Elop is the Trojan horse. And I was surprised he took that question because, that was something that was kind of a crazy conspiracy theory for a while.
Trojan horse in Nokia, who was coming from Microsoft.
Planted by Microsoft.
Planned to be selling the thing, right?
Yeah. Right.
Then he got off of the giant pile of money he was sitting on, and he
exactly.
Well, he did get a giant pile of money out of it. Now that kind of might lend some credence to the whole thing, right?
No. Yeah, he reiterated the whole thing. Look, Symbian, we were way behind the iPhone. It was 3 years behind, and MeeGo was running late, and we had to do something, and that's why we did Windows Phone. And I still think it was the right move. So.
Yeah.
Apple bought Next. Nokia adopted Windows Phone. I mean, sometimes the thing you're working on isn't the best thing to do, and you got to look outside.
Yep.
And they were both very similar success stories. So I don't understand why we're debating this.
We were talking about this Nokia 1520. This thing is an amazing phone. Microsoft probably could have done a Surface phone, but they didn't have to.
Right. I think it had Nokia not come around.
Yeah.
They would have had to, and things would have been very different.
Yes.
The other thing I would just say, I repeat this again and again, but, people always, Nokia obviously had issues and was kind of circling the drain there in many ways. And people say, see, he didn't do a very good job. To which I say, I believe that company would have done worse if he hadn't done what he did. Like, I think he restored at least respect. I mean, he wasn't able to turn around financially, but I don't think that was just, he adopted this horrible problem. What they were able to accomplish under him I think is incredible. And the saddest part is that they weren't able to just keep going as a standalone entity.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel bad about that. I mean, I wish they had the financial strength to survive independently.
Microsoft may regret how at the end of next year Nokia can go back into the phone business. Right?
I don't see that happening.
They lost everybody that knows how to do this, though, right?
Yeah.
It would be pretty crazy to try to get into the market now, I feel like. As the big three players with Microsoft is a distant third, but like you're going to go up against
starting from zero. There were Nokia engineers, remember, who left the company. They started their own company to make a phone, and they made something that looks really nice, you know, but that doesn't mean it is anywhere. BlackBerry was amazing, and they're falling apart. Microsoft had incredible relationships with all of these wireless carriers and everything, and Windows Phone hasn't exploded exactly. You can't just decide you're going to enter the phone market. I mean, it's you know, it's complicated.
Right. I think the thing they will do, the part of Nokia that still exists, is they're going to turn into a patent licensing machine, right? Like that's one of the 3 businesses they have left. They also have the networking business, but the patent one, they're going to be licensing here maps, and they still own a ton of patents that they're going to license, not just to Microsoft, but to anybody who they can, and possibly go after people who they feel are in violation of their patents. So that's going to be a revenue source for the company that is still Nokia.
Right. Right.
Interesting. So complicated.
But, you know, 90% of that company, Nokia, the new Nokia, the existing Nokia, whatever we're calling it, is this networking business, right? The NSN stuff, the Nokia Siemens. And I don't know what that is. I don't know. You know, it seems like they have a business. They're investing in certain areas related to actually to mobile chipsets, by the way. I mean, we could eventually see a Microsoft, Apple, Google device, whatever, that has some kind of Nokia chipset in it, which is kind of interesting. You know, but here Maps is maybe 10% of their total business. And then we'll see as far as patent licensing goes. I don't think it's much yet, but that, right, like she said, could turn into something.
Yeah.
I just don't think we're going to be talking about this company too much going forward.
Yeah.
Maybe
we won't,
other than
it doesn't have that much to do with Microsoft.
Here Maps here and there, but
let's take a break. Unless you have other Elop or Nokia stuff.
Anecdotes,
things to share.
Jokes.
A little rap song. My name is Stephen E. I make the Nokia.
Picture of them, Leo?
There's a picture of who?
Of Nadella and Stephen Elop. It was.
Is it on the Conversations blog? Where is it?
It was on
you're talking about the mountain picture?
Yeah.
Someone did the awesome, you know, they photoshopped out the background and put a giant explosion there instead.
And there was
like, cool CEOs don't look back at explosions.
Yeah. And then they had somebody photoshopped out the 1020 that was in Elop's hand, and they put an iPad in his hand. There were all kinds of great photoshops on that.
I got to find that. I'm doing a little search here. Oh, yeah. Well, here's a picture of the mountain. So this is the original picture of them together.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen, Leo, is 10 years from now, people are going to be taking photos of this exact scene and showing you what it looks like now. Because this apparently is what we do.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat room will give me a link. I don't see it quite yet. Although I found an interesting link of to Bill Gates doing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not sure.
Oh, God.
Is that real?
It's like the scene from Spaceballs where the guy's playing with the action figures.
It does look like Rick Moranis a little bit there. You never know what you'll find in an image search. I'll tell you that right now. Paul, you're a clean-shaven feller. May I ask you?
I know where you're heading because I have some questions for you, but please continue.
I don't know if this is exactly where you're thinking. I'm going where you're thinking. It is? See the box?
Yeah, I got one of these in the mail.
Did you? Well, now you know why. We're welcoming a new sponsor to the network. Actually, not completely new. They've been on Twit before. This is Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience, a company that's disrupting the industry as we know it. You know, we all know that, you know, give away the razor, make money on the blade paradigm. I mean, it's so common that it's kind of become a truism about how business works. Problem is, if you're buying blades, you're now paying for that $4 a razor for a Gillette Fusion, and now they're charging a lot for the razors too. So Harry said, "There's a better way. You don't want to go with those disposable razors. Can you please? Let's just stop that right now. Stop the insanity. That's just going to cut you up like crazy." But there is a better choice. Harry's was founded less than a year ago by a couple of guys, Andy and Jeff, who said, we can do better. They give you a great shaving experience for a fraction of the price of other razor blades like Gillette. They have a beautiful product design. In fact, let me show you the razor. This is the Harry's pack, the box, the Winston set. It's engraved, by the way, which is nice with your name. Did you get? Is one of yours engraved? Is your razor engraved?
So. I have to go. I didn't see that. That would be interesting.
Isn't that beautiful? This is so gorgeous. These are very high quality blades, and these are not like the blades you'll find in the drugstore. They actually have a factory in Germany where all the best blades come from. They've engineered these blades for sharpness and strength. The convenience and ease of ordering online, so you don't have to go down the razor aisle. Razor blades have gotten so expensive in my drugstore, they actually lock them up. You have to get a clerk to come over and open a locked case to get razor blades. I'm not doing that anymore. Jeff, who's one of the co-founders, also founded Warby Parker. We've talked about them a lot, the eyewear company. And there's some similarities here. The idea that these big razor company monopolies are overcharging for their products, and we can disintermediate them. I ordered the engraved Winston set. If you go to harrys.com, you can see that. Shipped to your door. Beautiful set. You get the razor engraved. You get, I love the Harry shave cream. By the way, I far prefer this to the aerosol shave creams. They smell good. They feel good. Give you a great, clean, smooth shave. And they're even going to give you here a little extra set of razors for it. Go to harrys.com. Use the promo code Windows. You'll get $5 off your first purchase. harrys.com. HARRYS.com. I do recommend the Winston set, but there's a lot. What did you get? Do you know, Paul, what you got?
I got exactly right what you're showing.
Yeah, that's the Winston set.
Yeah,
nice.
That's
kind of like certainly a good starting point for anybody who's interested. But they have a lot of products at harrys.com, and I could vouch for them all. Their motto is handsomer, sharperer, less expensiver. They have a Truman set. I think mainly it's just, I don't know what the difference is, but the Winston is kind of is this nice kind of metal handle, which I don't know, for you in the morning I want a little bit of, I want the solidity, precision grade aluminum. So what's surprising, and I don't know if you noticed that, Paul, but it's very light and yet very solid.
It's like a Lumia.
It's the Lumia of razor blades. I love it. Harrys.com. Don't forget to use the offer code Windows, $5 off your first purchase. I'm really enjoying it.
Please don't cut yourself, Leo.
I'm going to slit my throat right now. Thank you, Harrys, for your support. I don't want to leave you out, Mary Jo. If you want a set, I'll send one to you, too.
I actually got one, too.
Ah, good.
I didn't want to hold my leg up so you could see how it looked. So.
You can use it yourself. You can give it to the man in your life. Actually, this is a great gift, ladies, if you have a man in your life and you want to encourage them to be smooth as silk. Harrys, we like them a lot. Continuing on, Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo. Oops, there goes Harrys. Bye-bye, Harrys. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, and the latest news from Microsoft.
One question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Harry's was started by guys named Jeff and what?
No, Andy and Jeff. No Harry. Yeah.
No Harry.
I don't know who Harry. Well, Harry Truman, I guess.
Harry Truman.
Harry Truman.
Oh.
I guess. I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
There's a whole. Let me see. Let me look at the literature. In here, there's a shave guide. We built Harry's to be a complete experience and never leave you hanging at the mirror. I like that. Do you know if, Liz, if Harry is named after Harry Truman?
I don't know.
Here's a little secret. Your facial hair grows differently from everyone else's.
Right.
Your facial hair is as coarse as copper wire. I think the ladies know
this
that.
I've noticed.
Yeah. Gently splash. It even has a guide. You know what? This would be a great gift for the young man in your life who is hitting this first adventure of shaving. I missed that point with Henry. And unfortunately, he got into using an electric razor, which really bums me out.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that depressing?
Yeah, I could never use one of those.
Yeah. Don't let your children, keep your children away from electric razors. Use the real thing, the manly thing. Harrys.com. This is nice. I got to put this away, though, so I can use it again. There we go. Moving on, the Surface, a Surface Mini? Is that the 8-inch you were talking about, or 9-inch?
Yep. The 8.
Supposedly
7 to 8, yeah. And
8 seems to be a good sweet spot, actually.
It does.
Yeah. This
was a crazy thing that happened last week. There was a case maker whose name is Vasastrone, VSTN is what they're known as. And on Amazon.com, they posted something that said, hey, we're going to have cases for Microsoft Surface Mini starting May 18th.
Oopsies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Microsoft hasn't announced the Surface Mini yet. We've been talking about it for like a year, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's been about a year. So, Paul, you were the first one who got a tip on it, I believe.
It was supposed to arrive, last fall.
Right. And it never did. And we have never gotten comment as to when it's coming. So, this could just be a case of, no pun intended, a case of the case maker saying, hey, we heard there's a Surface Mini. Let's pick an arbitrary date and just say we're going to have the cases.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think so.
I don't think so because I keep hearing there is going to be an announcement of this very soon, maybe even May, maybe even in New York.
18th.
Maybe. I don't have a date, but I keep hearing it's very close. And Neowen wrote something recently too, where they said they heard it was just waiting in the wings. And they also added the detail that we had been talking about on Windows Weekly, that it's going to come with a stylus.
So you're right, and be marketed as specifically as a note-taking device.
Note-taking tablet, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So we don't know still what the date is, if this is really happening in May. We don't even know if it's ARM or Atom based. And a lot of people have said, well, if it's a digital stylus, of course it has to be Atom. But we don't know if there's been any progress on doing a driver for an actual digital stylus for ARM. We don't really know. The original tips on Surface that I got, the Surface Mini, said it was going to be ARM, but that was a year ago. So a lot of things have changed since then, including Microsoft's commitment to Windows RT. We think they're building another version of Windows that's going to work on phones and tablets that are ARM based, but it won't be what Windows RT is right now. It'll be some kind of a hybrid or a new SKU. So that kind of throws into question, should or will this be ARM or will it be Atom? We don't know. We don't know the price.
Yep.
We don't know anything except that this does exist.
Brad already knew and had a neat story about why maybe it was delayed, because that was one thing I had not heard. Right before it happened, I got word that it wasn't happening all of a sudden, and there was a lot of confusion around that. And what he had written was that his sources had told him they just couldn't make this stuff in quantity, and that they already knew they were running into problems with Surface 2, the ARM version of the tablet. And sure enough, that thing was not available for much of the holiday season. And they didn't want to do that with something that would presumably be possibly the most popular of the three devices. Yeah. And so they held off on it. And, given the problems Microsoft has with inventory and so forth, last year, obviously, the previous year, they had gone in the opposite direction and ordered too many of everything. And I think this past year, they wanted to be a little more accurate. And if anything, they just had a shortfall. And, so we'll see. But I haven't heard. I've not heard myself anything about this now. This new set of rumors is not something I've been part of.
Yeah, I think it's about time for them to do it. They need something new in the Surface lineup, I think, now. And a lot of people said, "Oh, that's a weird time. Why announce it in May?" Well, it makes a lot of sense if you want to position this as a cheaper, lower end tablet for things like graduation gifts and Father's Day and back to school, right? Like a lot of dates are coming up where they should have something in this category if they plan to actually be in there. So I don't think the May thing is as far-fetched as some people were claiming. I wouldn't be surprised to see the announcement in May.
This is jumping ahead a little bit. I don't want to get into the Acer stuff too much, but Mary Jo and I went to an Acer event yesterday, and one of the things the CEO of Acer said that I actually thought was pretty interesting was that, there are really only 2 times a year that make any sense for these kind of device sales. And those are back to school and the holiday selling period. And so if you think about, how you want to structure your announcements for those things, he said, you do back to school now, and then some months down the road, you do holiday. And, this falls right into that time frame. So
Let's see. I'm sorry, I was shaving. I wasn't. I am smooth as a baby's bottom. This is a money loser.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes.
But that's okay.
Sure.
Right?
That's an investment.
Yeah.
It's an investment.
Yeah.
My kids are money losers, too, and I love them.
At this point, you're such an Adela. This decision to go into hardware was not yours. Do you start... It's way too soon to start looking at, do we want to be in hardware, right?
I think you look at the ways you want to be in hardware if you're in it, right? And they haven't hinted that they're thinking about dumping devices, but I think especially with Nokia, you look at, do we want to actually manufacture hardware, or do we want to have people who are like Pegatron and Foxconn build our hardware for us and get further away from actually being a manufacturer? That's a big question, especially for the phones, what they're going to do there. But with Surface, they already outsource a lot of this. So I think it's Pegatron who does their design for them, and Fox. I don't know if Foxconn actually builds them. They build Xboxes, right, Paul? Mm-hmm. Don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So Microsoft they made something like 490 odd million in the latest quarter revenue wise on the Surface, but the cost of goods was higher than that. It was 500 some odd million. So they are still losing money on the Surface. And that, you got to wonder how long they're going to keep that
They
going.
sold more.
They did.
So they actually lost more because they lose on a kind of a per unit basis.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess depending on how you look at it, things are up or they're down. It's I don't know, a matter of perspective. I didn't write this, but I was thinking today, when you think about devices and services, hardware is one of those things that has a short shelf life. It's expensive to make. It's expensive to develop. It's expensive to ship out to stores. It's expensive to sit there. It's expensive to get back when nobody buys them. It's expensive to fix. This hardware in many ways is such a lousy business. Until you look like someone like Apple who can just go gangbusters on that somehow. But for most companies, it's just awful. And of course, Microsoft's expertise is software, and software goes very nicely into services. And services are kind of the opposite of all that stuff. They're high margin, and they're low cost for all the things I just said. So it's kind of a weird thing. Devices and services. It's like profits and losses. They're. It's kind of a tough. I think that being CEO of Microsoft is like being president of the United States, in that people who go into the job have opinions about how they may or may not do things once they get there. And then they have the sit-down chat with, in this case, the senior vice presidents of every division or whatever. And then they learn that, their preconceived notions about things aren't necessarily correct. And something like Surface, I would imagine, it's pretty easy to look at the short-term stuff and say, this thing's a money loser, we shouldn't be doing this. But there's so much that plays into it. And I sort of joked about it being an investment earlier, but, really it is an investment. And maybe there are very good reasons why they have to be in this market, have to be doing this, even if they continue just to lose money on these things going forward.
I mean, the reason they said they wanted to be in Surface, I think this was Steve Ballmer who said this, was they didn't feel like the OEMs were doing enough to address the segment of the market that the iPad serves. They said they do a good job in other parts of the market, but not that part. And that's why we think we have to be in there with Surface. I don't know if they still feel that. I haven't heard anything that leads me to believe they don't still feel that. But yeah, it's been a rocky road, I would say, for them with the Surface. I
don't know if we've lost. Paul, are you still there?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Just your picture we've lost. So.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the video froze.
There we go. Yeah, you're beautiful now.
I can't see you, but I'll.
And it feels as if you might have shaved in the interim as well.
Yeah.
Clean as a whistle. It's a good conversation. It would be awfully embarrassing at this point to
dump it.
Dump it. And
I know.
Yeah. Right.
It would. Yeah. Especially if you're calling yourself the devices and services company. I mean, that can mean you're addressing other people's devices, but
you know what I've been
we make it's the device and services company. That was just an overstatement.
Ah, there's a device. I'm a little I'm thinking we are in. If you look at Apple sales figures, for instance, the drop in the iPad sales, I'm thinking we might even be in a post-tablet environment. Now, obviously, this isn't true for Microsoft's core business. The enterprise business still uses desktops, potentially uses tablets. But for most users, the phone is now the computer of choice, 90% of the time.
I don't know. I would say there's always going to be a mix of these devices, and the exact breakdown of which people use is going to vary. I think,
and services are what's really important. I mean, cloud. The platform is the cloud. Look at what we were just covering before the show. I apologize for starting a little late. Facebook's developer conference, F8, and it's been very clear that Facebook's decided that they are the next generation Microsoft. But in the same way that Microsoft, really became successful as a platform company, stable and consistent. That's the words Mark Zuckerberg used. Platform for developers to develop apps on, and in this case, it was a software platform, it was Windows. Facebook wants to be a cloud platform for apps. And I have to say, that seems like going forward a very sensible strategy. Is Microsoft just going to say, well, we're not going to do that anymore. Maybe we'll just sell some hardware.
Okay. I mean, Facebook, I'm not sure what to say.
Azure is has all of that potential.
Yeah.
And Microsoft even has an ad network.
Azure is interesting to me because it accomplishes what server did before it and what the PC or Windows did for just the client PC market, which is you provide that underlying platform. It's literally the classic OS, in the sense that it provides services for apps and things that run on top of it. And that's just Microsoft playing to their strengths. I mean, I think that transition is so natural and so seamless. They're going to be very successful doing it.
Yeah.
Devices, it's kind of tough. I mean, people complain about Microsoft porting Office to the iPad, but ultimately, when you think about it, Microsoft's platforms have always run on other
And there he goes. the signal was getting worse and worse and worse, and I don't know if we've completely lost him. I think somebody said he's been beamed up, and I believe that's the case.
That could be it.
But you said the margin. That's exactly one problem with hardware.
Margins
sucks.
Are awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Right. Like if you're Microsoft, and the reason Microsoft became so successful pretty early on in its life was software margins are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you are, when you have a dominating position like they did with Windows. And cloud margins also pretty amazing. Hardware margins, not so amazing. There are a lot of costs in that you don't have to deal with in software and services. So, the question is, do they want to be in that business? Some of their shareholders, the institutional shareholders, aren't that keen on them staying in that business. They think it would be better for them financially to get out of making hardware at all, Xbox, Surface, the whole thing, and either kind of spin that out into a separate company or sell that off and just kind of stick to their knitting, which is software and services.
But this is why this is very challenging, because
it is.
Apple showed in the last decade that hardware could be extraordinarily profitable.
Yeah.
We used to say, whose wallet would you rather have, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs? And for the last few years, it was Steve Jobs. But that era seems to be changing. Mm-hmm. And it may be a little late for Microsoft to enter that game anyway. Yeah. Whereas they have a strong cloud presence. Azure is a very powerful platform.
I think they need to mature beyond this. I think that in many ways their devices' dreams were all based around Apple envy, and that was kind of A, a slice in time, and B, something they're just not good at. And Microsoft software and services running on top of other platforms is absolutely okay. I mean, they had this wonderful thing going for a while with Windows, but they can still make this compelling case now that their stuff runs best on Windows, and that's fine. But I mean, ultimately, you're running on other companies' hardware. It's just the way it's going to be. So
live with it.
Yep.
I think so.
So there you go. This is the crux, and this is I imagine what some few minutes are wasted at every board meeting talking about.
It's just, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around this, because for so many years, Microsoft was all about Windows first, or sometimes Windows only, Windows best. You know what? We're going to just let the other platforms not be supported. And the new Microsoft is as I'd say as old as a couple of years ago. That really started to change, and you saw them doing more and more cross-platform. But a lot of people just cannot get their head around this. Like, what? Microsoft's doing software for other platforms like iPhones and iPads before they're doing it for Windows and Windows Phone. What the heck?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at my 1520 going, Yep. Maybe I'll just go back to the iPad.
Sure.
No, I'm not doing that. But still, that does seem odd. But that's a moment in time. That's not, in 6 months, nobody's going to be saying that.
Hopefully not. Hopefully people are going to get it that Microsoft.
I think Paul threw the phone across the room. You did, didn't you,
I
Paul?
specifically mute the phone in my office, and so what has happened is one of my children has put the wrong phone back in my office because they take phones, and and I find that to be aggravating. I'm sorry.
Did you actually throw it? Did you
the phone is not next to me anymore.
You whipped it. You whipped it. I love a good athlete. I'm going to sign you for the Mudville 9.
Yeah, so don't be surprised if you see more of this, everybody. Like, you're going to see Microsoft supporting the platform that's dominant first. And if it's in the tablet space, it's going to be iPads and Android tablets a lot of times. And it's kind of infuriating when you've been used to them, always doing their platform first. But they're basically living in the new real mobile first, cloud first world that Satya Nadella keeps talking about. This is what it takes.
And by the way, we should all live in reality. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what people are so indignant about. It's just. Yeah. I look back at certain things when Microsoft was dominant in personal computing. They were very belligerent and were very harsh toward competitors and all kinds of other things. But I also kind of wonder, how almost lucky their success was. Like, I'm not even 100% positive that they had the right thing going all the time. I mean, for whatever reason, they just, they were the biggest deal in the world for a while.
It's always that way, Paul. You could say the same thing about any massively successful company. There's hits and there's misses. Right. I mean, you just need to have more hits than misses.
And
Apple,
now
Google, it's all the same.
Yeah, so things have changed. And I mean, I know enough about Microsoft to know that really what they're doing here is not super different from what they've always done. I mean, it's just that the underlying platforms now are made by other companies, and that's I know that's confusing to some people that follow Microsoft or whatever, but
so they've always been cross-platform.
Pretend it's not like this. I mean,
right? They've always been. I mean, the goal is total cross-platform. I mean, Office is a success to the degree you can use it anywhere, anytime. Yes?
Sure.
Yeah, and they know that. There be going to discontinuities because nobody can do everything all at once. Nothing's instant.
Yeah.
But the goal would certainly be to get it everywhere.
The old Microsoft, though, would handicap things to favor Windows.
No,
right?
I know they say they didn't do that.
They did.
But
they definitely did. There's no question.
They definitely did. Yeah, of course they did. They were terrible. Yeah.
And they did it with Office for the iPad, right? I mean...
And there are people who find it very fitting that Google is not releasing their stuff on Microsoft's platforms.
Same thing.
That Apple is not really, I guess so. I don't think it's, like I said earlier, I think it would be better for everyone if this stuff was a little more cross-pollinated or whatever.
Well, it would be better for users, and there in a nutshell is the issue.
Sure. Yeah.
In the long run, I think
better for users.
As we users, I think in the long run we feel that it's always better for a company if they are better to their customers. And there's Jeff Bezos, that's the holy grail of Amazon. But I don't think that that's a given in business.
You know what? Microsoft's not perfect. I mean, Microsoft doesn't do all this stuff even-handedly even today. I mean, for example, why is the new way of connecting to Google Calendar and Google Contacts working just fine on Windows Phone? And it's not working on Windows, which is, by the way, a platform everyone actually uses.
Right.
This is something that Microsoft could implement right now very easily, and they don't. And why don't they? Nobody knows. They've never spoken publicly about it. They won't admit to it. They don't know. No one knows.
Right.
I don't know.
That would be really interesting if that changes now.
Because
it feels like part of the reason it didn't happen was when the Windows team was under a different group of managers who really.
Who would that be, Joe?
I'm just trying to stay very diplomatic here.
Steven Snosky.
And, they had a very different mindset about how to deal with their competitors. And now that we're in this Satya Nadella world and Terry Myerson world, it would be very interesting if they undid that decision. I've never heard that they're going to, but that would be very interesting.
To me, this is something that should just appear one day. It should come with no fanfare. There's no reason it shouldn't just be there. Mm-hmm. You never know. By the way, I do agree. I do actually think they will do that now.
I think so.
And yeah, and even my software picks of the week today are based around the same notion that you see a lot of cross-pollination between Windows and phone. You see, it's impossible these days when a new app comes out on, say, Windows, and you think, wow, I would really like to have this on Windows Phone. And then it happens. And so I think, yes, we'll see that.
It just doesn't happen all at once. In like I said, in 6 months we'll go, oh, yeah. I want to take a break. We have, and maybe in the interest of time, we can run through a few of these stories. We're going to talk about OneDrive for Business.
Oh, no, we're going to beat them all to death, Leo.
This is our one.
These are all quick hits.
Microsoft.
So settle in, big guy.
Xbox. We got some Xbox stories. We also have our picks, as Paul mentioned. And yes, beer. Are you looking for work? Are you looking for employees? I've got a name that you've got to keep in mind for future reference, for employers especially. ZipRecruiter.com. ZipRecruiter, if you're hiring, you know that you know their job boards. You probably go to the job boards and you post them. You post them on everyone, or you pick one or two. For every job, there's probably the right job board. But how do you know which one's going to give you the best talent ahead of time? And certainly, who has time to go one by one? That's why I love ZipRecruiter. We used ZipRecruiter recently, and we're about to use it again. And I'll tell you, this has been a lifesaver for us. It's the best way to post jobs with a single click of the mouse. You can post on 50-plus job sites and social networks like LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Google+. They'll add your company logo and colors to make your job pages yours, not theirs, an extension of your business. You can add unlimited users to your account, create an instant job page on your website, include a company careers page for a link. All the features I know, HR wants. If you're doing hiring, this is what you want. You post once and you watch the qualified candidates roll into their easy-to-use interface. They'll automatically highlight the best candidate. That's cool. Or candidates. You screen them, rate them, and you hire the right person fast. We want you to try ZipRecruiter and find out why they've been used by over 100,000 businesses, including Twit. You can try it for free for a 4-day trial by going to ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. Post that job free and use it free for a 4-day trial. ZipRecruiter.com/Windows. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly, for helping us find the right talent. Not always easy. Paul Thurrott, he's the right talent. He's the man for our age. A man for our time at Win
Actually, when you said, were you looking for a job? I was like, why? What happened?
What that day?
I almost did too. I was like, who?
No,
me?
not you.
You're talking to me? Not
you. Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. There couldn't be two people better for this show. You guys, you're safe forever. Forever. As long as you want to do this show, it's yours to do. A couple of quick hits, though. Let's see. Starting off with OneDrive for Business. Mary Jo. No, this is a Paul Thurrott. I see the word business. I think of you, Mary Jo. But Paul's going to give us the business this time.
Well, we kind of split them up.
All right. I see. Back and forth.
We can bang these out quickly. By the way,
yes.
This one Mary Jo would agree. It was originally confusing because of the way this release was worded. But our understanding of this now is that anywhere you can get Microsoft OneDrive for Business, which used to be called SkyDrive Pro, meaning any version, basically any version of Office 365 for Business. Including the recently released OneDrive for Business standalone subscription. including Office 365 Small Business and Small Business Premium, Office 365 for mid-sized businesses, et cetera, et cetera. The storage limit for this service per person went up over time from 7 gigabytes to 25 gigabytes and now to 1 terabyte, which is crazy. And we kind of were scurrying around yesterday trying to, because it was so vaguely worded, it wasn't clear if it was everybody or just the standalone service or whatever. There's also a sort of a side subscription called Office 365 Pro Plus. It's basically a way to subscribe to the Office 2013 Professional Plus software, right? The downloadable, installable software. This previously was a kind of a standalone offering. They've added OneDrive to Business for that as well. And so those people who subscribe to this Office 365 Pro Plus subscription now get OneDrive for Business and that 1 terabyte of cloud storage per user. So that's kind of a neat and huge change, right?
Yeah, they're totally going after Box and Dropbox with this. And this is why they're doing it.
Well, and let's not forget Google dropped the price on their Google Drive as well. This has become, this is good. Competition's good.
Yep.
See what happens?
Also, I found out today, Paul, if you're on Office 365 for education and you're under A2 or A3, you also get the 1 terabyte as well. So
you get a terabyte and you get a terabyte.
Exactly.
And you get it. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's great. It is great.
To be clear, though, this is not OneDrive for consumers. It's not OneDrive.com.
You don't get a terabyte. I'm sorry. You don't. Never mind. Forget it.
Yeah. This is like the SharePoint Online based OneDrive for Business, part of Office 365.
But you pay for bandwidth, not storage. I mean, they are making money on this. Is that right?
Yeah, you have to subscribe to Office 365.
Okay.
To get the 1 terabyte.
And that's it? It's all free?
Right.
But, I mean, after that, there's no bandwidth cost or anything.
No, not for Microsoft.
Oh, that's good. No. Amazon does that, of course.
Yeah, right. No, it's not like that.
Okay.
It works like Google Drive or OneDrive in that sense. I mean, it's just you get what you get.
But and you get to keep it.
Yeah.
Cool. Good deal.
This has got to be about lock-in, because once you get a terabyte of data per user, thinking of switching to the Google Cloud suddenly gets a lot more expensive.
Also, okay, so we're moving along. I'm sorry, I'm slow.
No, we should do that. It's okay.
Skype versus Hangouts.
Yeah, this is another cool freebie thing. So Microsoft has been charging for Skype group video calling. You had to buy a premium subscription to Skype to get that. And now they're starting to make that free. So the first 3 platforms that get it for free are Windows Desktop, the Mac, and Xbox One. And they said as they continue to roll this out for Windows 8 and for Android tablets, it's going to be free. This is it. It's free from now on.
Wait. But Windows 8 doesn't get it yet.
They don't have it. There's not a modern version of
on Metro.
This.
Oh, God. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So you could run it on your desktop.
You could
already.
do the desktop Skype. It's just the modern Skype. Okay.
Right.
That confuses me when I see that word. Right. If you want to use a modern Skype.
It confuses us too.
Yeah.
The modern Skype is not up to date.
This is for if you have 3 to 10 people. That's like the best quality that these things are for. So if this is
Google Hangouts is what, 8, 9 total. Yeah, something like that. But you're right. You get too many people and it starts to fall apart. Yeah. But this is a direct. This is a directly aiming at Hangouts.
So that was nice and kind of surprising that they made that free.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere. So that's nice.
I skipped over Microsoft's rapid release schedule. Did you want to?
This is just sort of a general question, because one of the things that comes up with this rapid release thing that we're on is that IT doesn't like this necessarily. A lot of enterprises don't want it.
We can't vet it. There's no time.
And so, I sort of tell this story a lot because back in the Vista timeframe, at the time before they understood why people really weren't adopting Vista, Microsoft was wondering what they had to do to get businesses to adopt it more quickly. And the theory at the time was businesses wait for SP1, the first service pack. And that was always kind of a baloney excuse, right? I mean, the truth was businesses don't roll anything out unless they absolutely have to. But they would always use that, we're waiting for SP1, till all the bugs are fixed. The problem is, software is not always right. There was the recent Surface firmware fix that screwed everything up for Surface Pro users. There's a famous service packs that have gone horribly wrong for Windows NT or Windows 2000, and people still hold these things up as examples of this is why we don't ever roll out these updates. But what happens when something goes wrong with an update that just kind of silently appears one day, screws everything up for everybody, and now we're into this rapid release cycle program, and there's no stopping this. What happens when what if IT ever does buy into this rapid release thing and they just open the floodgates and then Microsoft starts screwing things up for people? And I think there needs to, I'm sure Microsoft has a formal process in place everywhere, I guess. Although, as we were talking about last week, every team at Microsoft seems to be on a completely different schedule and has a completely different way of doing things. I think this is something that needs to be addressed. And it's sort of like that trustworthy computing initiative. It needs to be baked into the DNA of what Microsoft does, that there needs to be some formal process in place for ensuring that a rapid release cycle doesn't screw everything up for everybody at some point. And how they get to that, I don't know, but it would be a horrible, kind of stick in the wheel of progress if some whatever it is, Office 365 update or a Windows update or whatever, comes down the pike and then blows away something for a bunch of people in a company somewhere. And it's going to happen. I mean, I think it's inevitable. Of course it's going to happen. Every software update increases the chances, and the more you do, the more chances you have to screw stuff up. So it's just something to kind of think about. I hope Microsoft is thinking about this, and I hope they have a plan in place, because as they convince everyone to come on this roller coaster ride with them, they need to be looking for a gap in the tracks, as they race forward.
A gap in the tracks. I love it.
Well, right.
Or another train coming the other way. There's all sorts of hazards.
Look, I see a light.
Yeah. That tunnel, it's moving. Ah!
Is it so bright in here?
We didn't really mention the IE 0 day.
Yeah, we could talk about that at the end if you want. I got it as my enterprise pick.
Okay. We did talk about yesterday. Steve talked about how to mitigate it, even in XP. And, of course, the best mitigation is to not use IE in XP because it's stuck at 8.
That seems to solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Although it was fun, the Department of Homeland Security said nobody should be using IE. They say that over and over, actually.
I looked that up, and what they said was people should follow Microsoft's advice, and if they can't do one of those workarounds, maybe they should consider using a different browser.
They said years ago, don't use IE.
It was so basic and almost perfunctionary. I don't even understand why this was a story. It was normal. Just like,
yeah, of course, that's exactly right.
Big deal. I mean, that's just common sense.
Yeah.
They didn't say like IE sucks. We're not going to use IE. I mean,
stop using IE. I think they said that though a few years ago.
You should not use IE on an out-of-date, unsupported operating system.
Right. Yes. Unless you can mitigate it.
Absolutely.
That's obvious.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court has ruled.
No.
Is Novell a business still? I'm just curious.
Oh, this is Leo. This is the best. And I'm not gonna go through this quickly because it's so stupid. Years after Novell sold off WordPerfect and Quattro Pro for a $2 billion loss, they sued Microsoft for behavior that Microsoft had toward WordPerfect and Quattro Pro at the time in 1994.
1994. So that's not an error, folks.
2004. I think it's like statute of limitations was running out or something, and Microsoft, of course, had lost their antitrust case. They thought, I don't know, it seemed like they were ripe for the picking. So Novell now has been bought by another company. I forgot the name of the company that bought them.
Wizard? Is it called Wizard something?
Wizard?
No, something with an A.
That's sad.
Authenticate.
Oh, no, Attachmate bought part of it, right?
Attachmate.
Yep.
You've really gone downhill when a company called Attachmate acquires you.
Bill Gates, by the way, testified in this trial.
Wow.
Yep.
3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And he said, which I knew, I mean, just from the time, which was WordPerfect lost because it wasn't as good. Yeah. In fact, what really happened at the time was that company wanted to screw Microsoft over, and so they backed OS 2. So when Windows took off, they were kind of caught unawares. They just weren't ready for it. And that was a big part of the reason they fell apart. Word was just better. And anyway, Novell's lost it repeatedly. They appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled this week that they were not going to even look at it. That this is over.
Done. So it wasn't like they heard
20
arguments.
years, exactly 20 years from start to finish. It
wasn't like they heard arguments. They just said, "What? You're kidding?
We're not doing this." Yeah, no, this is.
You're kidding. You're appealing? No.
Yeah, no, it's over.
That's over. 20 years.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure Authenticamate or whatever is very, very unhappy.
Authenticamate. They make photocopiers for the Japanese market.
Fax machines. Microsoft X. So this is the Microsoft research. Microsoft has a good research division. Really doing interesting stuff.
They do. And this was super interesting this week. So they have started up inside of Microsoft Research a special projects group. And I was tipped to it by somebody who sent me a couple job postings. And when you read the job postings, they talk about how they're going to have this team inside Microsoft Research. It's going to act like a startup. And it's going to work on disruptive technologies that could benefit society and the company. So it's basically meant to take on Google X, which is the division of Google that did Glass originally, and now it's doing self-driving cars and that Loon thing, that's the balloons delivering internet to various countries. So this is Microsoft's attempt to do something similar. And
they've got a great new name.
Yes.
Microsoft X.
No, I made that up.
Oh, okay.
That would be a cool name, but
we're the innovators here. That's why we've called it.
Yes.
We are.
No, they're not
lead,
going
not
to
follow.
That's a relief.
This piece is the craziest part. So there was a guy who worked at DARPA, the Defense Research Arm, whose name is Norman Whitaker, and he is the guy who is championing self-driving vehicles in the research.
Sure, DARPA used to have the DARPA. Still do have a DARPA challenge.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's that guy, and he is going to be the head of Microsoft Special Projects.
Good choice.
I know. So,
the
we're going to see some self-driving
car, the Microsoft glasses.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep. Where have we heard this
I can't
before?
wait till they come out with the M-Pad. It's going to be like a tablet. But instead of a stylus, you put in it with your finger.
What's really sad is that Microsoft Research has invented all sorts of really cool, neat things. None of which have, I think, as far as I know, really, except for
they you know what they are? They're like what is it, Bell Labs or whatever from
Bell Labs, Xerox PARC.
Xerox PARC, yeah.
They invented it, but they never released it.
What they need is for someone like Steve Jobs to walk in there and then, turn it into a product.
Right. That's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
Productizing.
Really productizing,
Yeah.
And finally, the big news. You are all you PlayStation 4 guys, we're all, hey, we sold 7 million. Hey. Well, guess what?
Well, everyone's going to be in China, but apparently
that's a big market.
Xbox One has secured the first spot, so they'll be the first video game console in China in 14 years.
And can you imagine that? Talk about pent-up demand.
Yeah, so China 14 years ago came out with a ban against video games because they deteriorated the moral standing of children or something, and they basically stopped this stuff from coming into the country. Of course, what's happened since then is everyone plays games on their tablets and their PCs and their phones, and so China came up with this kind of compromise where if you invested locally in this kind of trade-free zone in Shanghai or whatever, i.e. partnered with a Chinese company, you could bring your video game console to China. There are actually lots of restrictions. They're not just going to ship all the exact same games. I mean, they have to meet certain standards, and there's lots of stuff like that. But the video game market in China is bigger than the entire population of North America. It is over 500 million people.
Oh yeah, this could be huge.
This is potentially big. Now it's not going to only benefit Microsoft. Sony will come there with the PS4. Nintendo will go there with whatever Nintendo sells.
When? I mean, do they have to get regulatory approval? I mean, how does?
Yep. Yeah, they have to be approved.
This could be a significant head start.
The way they worded it suggested to me that even if Sony signed an agreement tomorrow, they still wouldn't be able to ship anything in China until after Microsoft had shipped the Xbox One.
So here you go.
So there's September. And September, of course, is the date when Microsoft is going to be releasing the Xbox One. And I want to say, off the top of my head, 22 additional countries.
And China will be one of them. Yeah.
China will now be, it would be 23.
So that's a big story.
Yeah.
They're going to have to quickly work up versions of Quake 3, though, because the Chinese,
yeah.
they're a little behind.
Yeah, guys, you missed all this stuff.
There's a lot
this
of
whole
stuff.
thing called Call of Duty happened while you were gone.
Call of Duty never attacked Chinese people, did it?
No.
No.
No, I don't believe so.
That's good.
So that's safe. There's some good Japanese retribution. One of those games.
That's
too,
okay. That's good. Yeah, we want that.
Yeah.
All right, we got picks of the week. We got beer. We got code name, and Mary Jo's going to explain a workaround for that 0 day for Internet Explorer.
I'm going to try.
For once, I think I agree with Mary Jo's beer pick of the week.
Oh, what?
You know, I should show you guys. I was, last week, my son invited me to the father-son frat day at Pi Kappa Phi.
Like a scene from Animal House. Leo threw the ladder up against some dorm room.
Exactly like Animal House. I felt like I was transported back in time.
Oh, that's awesome.
But
is it like the 1950s still on a college campus?
Frats have not changed. The guys are all wearing button-down polo shirts and you know, binge drinking. It was just like the old days. One of the things we did, though, as a father-son activity with all the other frat dudes and their dads, was we went to Golden, Colorado.
Nice.
And we watched them brew Kurs. And Kurs. It's in the water. Oh, there's my son, frat boy. Yeah, he's at Boulder, Colorado University. These are the big kettles.
Yep.
It smelled good. It smelled like mash. Smells like malt, chocolate malt.
Yeah.
And the brew kettle. Look at the size of that, Mary Jo.
I know.
Wouldn't you like that?
If you were actually in a frat, you would have jumped in one of those.
We had to hold the kids back. There's one right now. There's the frat house, by the way.
Yep.
You didn't stay in the frat house, I hope.
There's no furniture. In fact, there's no toilet paper.
Oh.
When girls come over, and apparently they do. I don't know why. If I were, I would say,
sure, I wouldn't go
into
this place personally.
But they bring rolls of toilet paper because they know.
Wow.
There's ample sweetened alcoholic beverages, though. They drink some weird vodka that's like mango and blueberry and.
They're kids, Leo. They can't help it.
Soft plastic bottles.
For crying out loud! I just fixed this.
Now what? Now what's wrong? Is your phone ringing again?
Why do I have a phone, Leo?
I don't use the phone. I don't want to talk to anybody. So let's talk about ITProTV. There's lots of folks who watch this show who are in IT, who would like to polish up their skills, or maybe they love this stuff and they'd like to get into IT, and I got a great way for you to do it. Don and Tim, the founders of ITProTV, have basically copied everything I've done, and with my blessing, to create a very engaging, very fun way to learn IT online. And I should add, very affordable. If you've ever priced the cost of a technical school to learn IT, you realize this is more than college. It's really expensive. Or even the study materials. Let's say you went to the bookstore, you went to Amazon to buy the study materials. They would cost more. This is such a good deal and a great way to learn, especially if you're a fan of Twit. For instance, they have, just like us, they have live on-air streaming sessions you can interact with and chat while they're teaching you. Their sets look very much like our Twit sets because, in fact, they have all the same gear we do. They're on Roku. They're on your laptop, on your tablet. And they've got hundreds of hours of content and 30 new hours every week in all of the areas that people want. For instance, CompTIA, you got A+, Net+, Security+, CASP, Strata, Linux+. Microsoft's got all of the Microsoft certs, MCSA. They're working on more stuff all the time. In fact, they have a schedule for the courses as they come out. The Cisco certs. These new ISC squared security certs are really great. Next June, they're going to start working on Office. They've got Apple and VMware coming too. And these guys are cranking out great stuff. In fact, I asked them to do a tutorial on how to use XP safely. 24 hours later, they had it, and it was great. They've done some great stuff for us. I'm really a fan of ITProTV. You can learn engagingly. By the way, the ISC squared stuff, they're using Adam Gordon, who's like one of the best guys in this security field. The episode library, you might have noticed, is organized by exam objectives, not just the exam itself, but the page and number, the question. So you could target areas that you want to learn to successfully pass. It's engaging. It's fun. You can watch it all the time. And they've done some things that I really admire. For instance, and I was talking with Tim about this. They said, we make it easy to cancel. Once you pass your test, or you just say, maybe this isn't for me, it isn't. You don't have to jump through hoops. If you have an annual subscription, you can download episodes and audio only if you want, MP3s, so you could put it on a device and listen all the time, while you're flying or traveling. Corporate accounts are available for departments and companies. But let me tell you, if you are an individual, normally it's $57 a month, $570 a year. That right there is a great deal. But if you use our offer code WW30, WW30, you're going to get 30% off, not for the first month or year, but for the life of your account. Now we're talking $40 a month, less than $400 for a year. You can't buy the books for that. And you even get the Measure Up practice exams included with your subscription. That's worth $79. And they have a virtual machine sandbox lab environment. You might say, well, how am I supposed to try all this stuff? You log in, and you've got a server, you've got clients, you've got everything. And so you can do hands-on practice and learning, and you can't hurt anything, but you really will learn. Great new web interface and learning management system will track your progress. They just keep getting better and better and better. I want you to check it out. Go to itpro.tv/WW. Upgrade your brain. itpro.tv/WW. And to save 30% off forever, use the offer code WW30. This is a super success story for not only for them, but for us. We're just really thrilled to be kind of partner with them and support them. They've grown immensely. When they started on Twit, I think they had 1,000. They weren't even up to 1,000 subscribers. They got 1,000 last month. They are on their way to 10,000 subs, and it's just I'm not surprised. It's a great program. itpro.tv/WW. Use the offer code WW30. Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com. Paul Thurrott from the Super Site for Windows, winsupersite.com, and it's time for Paul's tip of the week first.
Yeah, the tip of the week is that if you are using Office for iPad, they released I think it's the first update for the suite this week, but the big addition is printing.
Yeah.
And I had to go look this up because I don't really understand how printing works on an iPad. Apparently, it uses a system called AirPrint. I don't have an AirPrint compatible printer, sadly, and I believe it has to be Wi-Fi enabled and then has to be on their compatibility list. But if you
most printers are now, and we even have an advertiser, Lantronix, that sells the X-Print server.
Oh, they sell little.
It's like like the old HP Print Direct or whatever they call it. It's just a little box that make any printer AirPrint compatible.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a great solution. Yeah. Yeah.
There's some other stuff. They added the Smart Guide feature from PowerPoint. If you use it on PowerPoint 2013, you know what that is. Just a way to position things exactly on screen. It gives you the horizontal and vertical lines so you can line things up. And also an auto-fit feature for Excel, which is another long-lived feature in that product that lets you adjust the width of multiple rows based on the content that's in them at the same time. And so it's kind of a neat new thing. So you should get that automatically. And if not, you can go into the store and download those updates. That's kind of cool.
Very good.
The software pick of the week is actually two of them. It's two new apps for Windows Phone 8.1. Actually, I think one of them might be for 8 and 8.1, but the second is only for 8.1. They are Reading List and Movie Moments. And both are made by Microsoft. The first is included with Windows 8.1. The latter is made available by Microsoft for free for Windows 8.1. And now they're on phone as well. And so Reading List is that kind of excellent. It's an app that kind of sits on the side. So if you're using Internet Explorer, if you're using any of the Bing content apps like health and fitness or news or finance, you can use Reading List through the share charm to save an article for later use. It's kind of like a way of bookmarking almost that's kind of app independent. I have not had it just came out. I haven't had a huge chance to test this, but I know that on on Windows 8.1, one of the neat features of reading lists is if you're using it with the news app only, those articles will be available offline. And so you could mark a bunch of stuff in your reading list, launch the app on a plane, and then go read those things offline. That's kind of a cool feature. On the phone side, the neat thing about it is that it integrates with reading lists on Windows 8.1. And so if you're saving things to your reading list on a tablet or your PC, you'll see them on the phone now and vice versa. And of course, it does that through your Microsoft account. And so that's just this is the app. I think when Windows 8.1 launched, a lot of people said, wow, this is really cool. Microsoft is porting all of these Bing content apps over to the phone. That's really neat. When are we going to get reading lists? Here it is today. The other one is kind of a basic video editing program. It's called Movie Moments. A lot of people thought it was going to be included with Windows 8.1. You actually download it separately for free. It's bare bones, but it's designed to work with the sorts of short videos that one might take on a phone, which is why actually it makes a lot of sense on Windows Phone. And so it's here now. It can only record, or you can only edit up to 60 seconds of video. You can add music to it and titles and all that kind of stuff. But it is designed for those kind of short things that you might take. Here's the kids going on a sled down the little hill, or here's someone on a swing set, or whatever it is. The videos people actually kind of take, and then you can save them out to to Facebook or wherever else you want to save them. So another app, again, came from the Windows side, but you see it and you think, wow, this would make a lot of sense on phone, and here it is. They're not universal apps. I've had some questions about that, but as with that remote desktop app that came out last week, these apps use the back-end licensing changes that Microsoft has had, and so they have an understanding that you downloaded these before on a different platform. So if you go into Windows Phone Store and you've downloaded one of them previously in Windows, it knows that and will say you've already downloaded it, and it will ask if you want to reinstall it. But that will be a bigger deal for people when they're using paid apps in the future. But they are sharing that kind of back-end infrastructure, so some similarities there.
Great. That is our tip and our software pick of the week. Our enterprise pick of the week comes to us from somebody we'd like to call Mary Jo. What the heck? Mary Jo Mini.
She lives in a little window.
What's happening there?
Shrinky dinked.
It's like a little hobbit hole.
Just continue, and we'll make you big. There you go.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
My enterprise pick of the week is about this IE 0 day that was discovered over the weekend. Basically, anybody who's running any version of IE 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11, you're vulnerable to this, although to differing extents. So if you're an XP user, as we mentioned earlier, and you're still running IE 6, you should not run IE. That's the least you should do to try to protect yourself. But Microsoft issued some what they're calling workarounds because this has not yet been mitigated. One thing they said is if you are running IE 10 or 11, make sure that you have enhanced protected mode on in your browser, because that will help protect you from this 0 day. The other workaround they talked about was to change. They first gave guidance to say, first you should change your access control list for one particular program file, which was vgx.dll. Then
that's where the flaw lies, is in this DLL.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Then they later put out another updated advisory saying you could actually just unregister that DLL instead of the original workaround. But our security guy at ZDNet, Larry Seltzer, said both of these ways are both fairly the same thing, fairly similar in terms of helping you mitigate this. And of course, if you're an IT pro, you want to make sure you have what's called the Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit, EMET. Because
it makes it sound so fun.
It's so fun, and it helps
experience.
Protect you.
Yeah,
helps protect you from anything, any of these kinds of. Not every 0 day, obviously, but many of these that come up. If you have this installed,
mitigation has never been easier than with the Enhanced Mitigation and Toolkit.
You install this through System Center Configuration Manager if you're an IT pro. And it definitely will give you that extra layer of protection.
Yes, now with an extra layer of protection.
Yeah. So Microsoft, yeah, they're working on making sure this doesn't hit everybody. But, I've had a lot of people say, and it was so crazy this week, people who are running XP said, and they're not going to patch this?
Well, of course
Guys, they've been telling you for 2 years. They're not going to patch
on XP, no.
XP anymore.
No,
so
sorry.
you need to get off that operating system.
And as we, this does confirm the advice that Steve's been giving, which is you can use XP, don't run as a administrator, run as a limited user, and whatever you do, don't use IE, use Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, but so, yeah. Steve talked about it yesterday on Security Now. And
I'm sure he had a whole lot of
he had a lot to say. And I think he agreed, in fact, with those exact instructions.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Mitigation.
Great.
And your code name?
My code name pick of the week. We all of us who watch Microsoft know Ev Leaks. He loves to find all the cool code names, and he in the middle of April leaked a whole bunch of things that he said were Nokia code names. He had like 8 of them. There was Ara, there was Leo, there was Moonraker, Onyx, Peridot, and there was also one called Superman. And Tom Warren over at The Verge this week did some digging around, and he found out more about Superman. So Superman supposedly is a Nokia phone coming out towards the latter half of this year. And Tom called it a selfie phone because it has a 5-megapixel camera in the front of the phone. And that's where a lot of the focus supposedly is going to be. Right. Yeah. So it's supposedly a 4.7-inch mid-range phone, but with a really souped-up front-facing camera. And it may require one of the upcoming updates to Windows Phone 8.1, probably the second one that everybody's expecting this year. We've heard that there are going to be 2, one around July and then one later in the year. So this phone's not something that's going to be one of the first Windows Phone 8.1 devices, but it could be one of the more interesting ones if Microsoft decides to take it forward now that it owns Nokia. So that's what Superman is.
Very interesting. Superman is a selfie phone for Superman.
Yes.
And women.
And women.
I'm in the mood for some beer. And not that watered-down beer they made in Golden, Colorado. No. Although I have to say, when you go there, and I think this is probably true of any brewery, and they give you the beer fresh, straight out of the... Yeah. It's good.
It's really good.
It's refreshing. It's tasty. So even Coors could taste good. They make a lot of different... They make Killian's Red there. They make Keystone, Blue Moon. They make a Belgian, they claim. That's what they call it.
They claim.
They have a beer that's only available in Colorado for some reason, probably marketing reasons. And they have a beer that they say, they call it like, I don't know, VAT 19 or something. It was, they claim, found in a dusty old notebook right at the end of Prohibition, a pre-Prohibition recipe for beer. And they make that too. And actually, it's kind of good. Nothing like the great craft beers that we're used to.
Well, it's funny you're talking about Coors because my beer pick of the week is from Goose Island, which got bought by Anheuser-Busch. And when they got bought, everyone was like, oh, that's it. Goose Island, they're going to be terrible now. But as Paul Thurrott can attest, because he was at Rattle and Hum with me yesterday, and they had Goose Island Day, there are a lot of excellent Goose Island beers. And the one that's my pick is called Sophie. It's a Belgian, and it's aged in wine barrels.
Ooh.
So that gives it...
It looks like a wine label, really.
It does. A lot of their labels look like that for their Belgians. And this one is really delicious. It's got kind of a little sour thing going on because of the the wine barrels. But it's very tasty, very sparkly and Belgian. All the things you want in a Belgian.
And Paul likes it.
Paul liked it. I think he had that one.
You went to Rattle and Hum?
He did.
Is that their first time there, Paul?
Where Mary Jo is the queen of all she surveys.
I bet. Is it really like that? Do they go, do they bow down?
Yeah, it really is like that.
Oh, Ms. Foley, your beer is awaiting you.
We brought them a lot of good business. And
I bet you have. Are you kidding?
They know Windows Weekly there, too. So.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
We're going to have to do an event there sometime.
I want to go now. But now we should tell people it's a dive, right? I mean, don't get your hopes up.
Well, no.
It's not a fancy bar.
It's
not a fancy bar.
I imagine
it may
it is
not
a little
appeal
bit
to
dark.
a Yale man, Leo, but it is.
Is the floor
It is,
sticky, or does it have sawdust on it?
No,
No, the food is excellent.
Oh, they have
actually.
food.
Yeah.
the food is pretty good.
The
Yep.
beer list is amazing.
I want to go.
And by the way, here's the thing about the beer list. Not only does it change regularly, it changes during the day. Every time I've been there, they've come over and taken away the beer menu and given us a new one because they switch everything over.
Wow.
It's really impressive.
40 craft beers on tap, plus tons more in bottles. And they have a cask always. So, yeah.
Yep. It's the real deal. Actually, I'll tell you a story that happened yesterday. You'll enjoy this. We walked in the door, and two of the people behind the bar were like, "Hey, Mary Jo, how you doing?" And then the two guys at the end of the bar were like, "What the hell was that? We weren't greeted like that when we walked in the door."
What is this, Cheers?
It is my Cheers.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Mary Jo's name. Why aren't you, okay, Rattle and Hum, the challenge, get Mary Jo in that picture. I do think Paul Thurrott's there, though. Wait a minute. Let's zoom in on this guy. That looks like, I think that's you back there, Paul.
That's funny.
No, it looks good.
Yeah, it's funny because...
And that's where your stein is? This is where they hang the steins with your name on it?
Yep.
So yours is hung up right there?
It is.
And you go in and they take down your mug and they fill it up?
Yep.
Dude. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I think I'd be...
Everyone there is great. It's really, really good.
Yeah, they have tables. They have power outlets, free Wi-Fi. We just go in there and work.
We go in there and work.
And drink beer.
We drink.
Really? I want to do this. It's on 33rd Street.
Yeah.
And,
it's right down the street from the Empire State Building and from Penn Station.
Rattle and...
In fact, you can walk out the door and look up and you see the Empire State Building. It's right there.
Yeah, that's right. 33rd. Yeah. This is like a neighborhood bar. Oh, my God. Look at this.
That's crazy.
Oh, my... I'm looking at the pictures on the site. Wow, this looks great.
And the women who work there are the exact right degree of sauciness that you would expect. It's good.
Saucy barmaids, you didn't tell me that.
Yep.
There's one right there in his tight T-shirt.
A little too happy about that.
Hey, awesome. I want to go.
You can get the Rattle and Hummus, Leo.
They have Rattle and Hummus. I love it. Of course they do. Of course they do. Well, we've concluded.
Yeah, next time you're in New York, Leo.
I'm there. Oh no, I'm there. I'm living there.
And that's what I said. I said if I lived here, they would never get me out of here.
I mean, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. This show is brought to you each and every week by Rattle and Hum. Why aren't they buying ads? That's what I want to know.
Yep.
If you are a Windows fan, we love doing Windows stuff here, and you can join us normally, we were a little late today because of the F8 conference, but normally every Wednesday around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Was there any announcement at the F8? Was there anything?
No, just that we want you to trust us and have some beer. Our show today.
Oh, boy.
To Rattle and Hum, the place in New York where they know Mary Jo's name, but no one else's.
Yep.
They're starting to know Paul, too, I think.
Yeah. Paul!
Yeah,
You got to get a mug, though, Paul. You got to drink 40 beers in 40 days, right? What was it?
I live 3 hours away by train, so I do what I can do.
You're going to work a little harder, but you're going to be glad. If you can't watch live 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, 1800 UTC, please tune in after the fact. On-demand video and audio always made available at our website, twit.tv/WW, or wherever finer shows are aggregated for your listening pleasure. And don't forget, and I've got to say this more often, we've got great apps on every platform, including Dmitry Lealin's fabulous Windows Phone version of Twit. That's probably for everybody the easiest way to listen, and it's fine with us. We love it. We have so many great developers. I got at least 5 developers that I know of who make apps for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. So I think that's about it, guys. Paul's website is Supersite for Windows, winsupersite.com. Mary Jo is allaboutmicrosoft.com. you can stay there all week long and keep up on what's going on. And then, of course, we'll give you the full verbal wrap-up on Wednesdays. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Oh, I love the 1520. I'll share some thoughts on it.
Do you find it too huge?
No, the size is not the issue for me. Unfortunately, the issue for me is one that is more Google's fault probably than Microsoft's fault, which is the weak support for Google services. I mean, I use G+, I use Google Voice, and to me, a phone without Google Voice is like a day without sunshine. It's not really usable. I love the UI. I mean, and you can see I've put a lot of tiles on my front page, but a big screen like this lends itself to that, you know?
Yep. That's a lot of tiles.
Yeah. Yeah, but every single one of them is important to me.
It looks good though. Nice.
I think it's yeah, well, and that's one of the nice things you can do is you know, and there is a below the fold, so I could continue on. I do think the screen is just gorgeous. In fact, I just love the screen. I wish, and in many ways, this is they do a lot of things right. For instance, one of the things we've been complaining about on security now is this silly, especially on mobile, dots instead of letters when you type in a password. On mobile, it's so hard to get the characters right that using dots is just a pain. So on many, but not all, but many of the password entry fields on Windows Phone, it has a checkbox that says show password. That's exactly how to handle that.
Yeah.
You know, give me the chance. If I got somebody looking over my shoulder, okay, I might not turn that on. But in most cases, I want to see the dang password. It's very old school to hide the password. It's not even. Steve's of the opinion it's unnecessary. And I tell you, on iPhone, I entered the password wrong 2 out of 3 times. So it's such a waste of my time.
Yep. Agree.
And for the most part, I don't miss apps. There's a fake Sonos, which was one of my concerns. But the lack of Google Plus kind of kills me and this is Google's fault. There's no reason why Google couldn't do Google Plus or Google Voice for Windows Phone. I'm sure Microsoft would welcome those.
Yeah. They basically, a while back, said, oh, it's not popular enough of a platform, so we're not doing it. But, you know, it's all the tit for tat, Google, Microsoft.
Yeah, and, you know, Microsoft might have brought it on with Scroogled. I mean, perhaps that wasn't the most politic of things to do. But, you know, and I think 8.1 has just some really, I love the, you know, they now have pull-down notifications. The camera on this thing is just dynamic as heck. It's really great. Although a little slow to launch. Yeah. And I think some of the Nokia lenses are, you know, not so hot. Like, you know, I thought refocus would be a really interesting lens to use, and I was comparing it with the refocus capability of my M8. But watch, so I'll launch the Nokia camera, tap. That's pretty slow in modern terms. And then to use a lens, you have to then hit the menu, go to the lenses, and pick a lens. And again, another delay. So I'm not
yeah, mine, I just click the camera button on the icon, and the camera comes up already. Yeah. So I don't have to pick.
Right, I could just launch refocus. I understand.
Yeah.
That's one neat thing about these lenses is they're both apps and lenses, which is a nice way to do it. I like that. And the hubs are good. I guess Paul does not expect us so soon. He's probably out drinking.
Yeah, he just sent a note. He said it'll be ready in about 4 minutes, 2:30.
Yeah, exactly, 2:30. So, but I mean, there's a lot. I love the live tiles. I think it's a good interface. It feels very snappy in every other respect. The camera not, but everything else is snappy. You know. Yeah. I think they've done a nice job of that.
Yeah.
What I do kind of like is, you know, I'm so used to the highly customizable Android ecosystem that I kind of like it that Microsoft says, no, this is how you do it. It's like this. And it's not the same as Apple, so that's cool. But I like it. Yeah, some people look at my home screen and go, oh, my God. Okay.
The good thing is you can change it at any time, right?
Right. In fact, I could have it look just, you know, like a grid if I wanted to, or, you know, I can make it much simpler. It's very easy to do. But these are all apps I use. In fact, in some ways, I'm duplicating my Android home screen by putting the apps that I use the most on the front. So that's maybe. But you know what? Yeah, and WB Height says exactly my feeling, which is the only thing really wrong with this. There's so many things right, including a much better camera and so forth. The only thing wrong with it is I'm relying on Google services. So my calendar works, so that's not a problem. And you know, it pulls the Google Calendar just fine. My contacts, same thing, work great. Whoops, wrong hub. I don't really understand the Me Hub.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I mean, all this is a Twitter feed.
You can add other feeds in if you want to that right now, but that's going to change a little bit.
Is it?
How do you do that? Let's see.
Oh, no, it says showing Facebook and Twitter. So by installing Facebook and Twitter, I have those two. But I'm not sure that's superior to using Facebook and Twitter, frankly.
Right. It just depends if you want everything in one place.
Right.
That's the whole hub model, which they're changing with Windows Phone 8.1.
This is 8.1.
Oh, that's 8.1?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's going to work a little bit differently. We talked about that social extensibility framework thing. Yep. Right. So you're still going to have integration, but it's going to be through apps instead of having it all directly integrated right into the hub. So if somebody updates their app, we won't have to wait for Microsoft
That's
to come out with another
good.
version.
That's a good. I think that's a good idea.
I think it's good.
I think Nokia is definitely the way to go. I think the Here stuff is fabulous. I don't miss Google Maps, for instance. That's not an issue. But I do miss Google. The two apps I really miss are Google Plus and Google Voice, both of which I rely on. I guess Docs would be an issue as well. I don't know. Yeah, hubs to me, the only reason I have the Me Hub there is because it shows my picture.
I know. That's why I have mine, too.
Otherwise, oh, here's Paul. Great. Otherwise, I would just throw that away.
Yep.
Yeah, no Google Now. You're right. And Cortana's doing its best to kind of replicate it, and maybe someday will. No Google Voice, and so this is Cortana. So when you launch Cortana through the Cortana icon, you get a little Google Now-y kind of thing. Yes, that is my home. How did you guess? Is this where you work? God, how did it know? If so, yes. Magic. Yes, you guessed it. You're so brilliant. I love you, Cortana. I mean, that's Google Now. That's pretty much Google Now. That's pretty close. You press and hold this, and she'll listen to you, which is nice. That's pretty much Siri or whatever. Oh, Gmail is the other one. While I can get my Gmail, it doesn't reflect the Gmail interface I use well. So that's kind of a bummer.
What's wrong, Leo?
I'm just talking about the pros and cons on this 1520, which I really like. I mean, it's amazeballs phone, but because I'm so invested in the Google universe, it's problematic for me, and I don't blame Microsoft for that. That's obviously Google not supporting G+.
Yeah, Google has zero interest in Windows Phone, but there are some decent third-party apps. There's a good Google Plus app.
There is. What's the Google Plus?
There's actually a couple of Google Voice type apps.
Yeah, I'm using Metro Talk, which it's okay. It's okay. It does at least integrate it into the Message Hub.
Yeah. Yeah, it remains a fact, though. If you're heavily invested in like a Google or Apple or Microsoft ecosystem, that's the phone you should have, you know.
If you're
Although actually Google's good on iOS too.
Yeah, and that's the point, is that Google wants to be on iOS. Historically, they've
iOS as if it's their own thing. It's interesting.
Right. But I love this. The size does not bother me because it's so thin. And the thing is not it's a thin thing, and it you know, I don't think this looks weird. I'm used to it now from the Note and stuff.
Sure.
This doesn't look weird to me.
My head looks so big that looks like a mini phone when I put it up to my head.
It's fine. And I tell you, the screen on this is just beautiful. Camera's slow to launch. Maybe that's because I'm not using the Nokia. I'm using the Nokia camera, not the native camera. not the Windows camera. Let me see if I.
That might be a hardware thing actually, because it's slower on the 1020. But Elop said we'll talk about this a little later. But he was talking about how one of the issues with Nokia not being part of Microsoft was that they couldn't get the hardware into the phone that they needed because that was Microsoft's deal, and that is the type of thing that would have made the camera much quicker.
It's slow. I showed Mary Jo, and it's just painful. But I guess it's the same on the icon.
It's twice as slow on the 1020.
Yeah, and that's frustrating.
It is. Yeah.
So there's a few little things like that, but in general, the great nav app is the Here apps. The Nokia apps are fabulous. And Microsoft's going to have access to those for some time. I was just showing you how Cortana discovered where I live and where I work. And that's awesome.
And then she alerted the authorities.
She alerted the authorities. So and you can get Waze on here. So Facebook is a little behind, but not hugely behind.
It's, by the way, that is much better than it used to be.
Yes, I know.
I know. Years behind.
No, I know. It looks like they're one generation behind on this.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad. I mean, they still have the hamburger on the left. That's a big deal, right?
You know what you don't get? Where did I see this? I must have been on the Android phone. If somebody messages you on Facebook, you get a little circle on the screen. You've seen this,
yeah.
This does not happen on Windows Phone. And it is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, because you can drag the circle around on the screen. It's got the little guy's face on it.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you
that's
can
their
dismiss
pop-up
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like if you're on Windows Phone, you've never seen this, but Facebook on Android at least, I don't know on iOS, but it's like a little circle with the guy's face on it, and it pops up over whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And you can kind of move it around so it's not in the way, and but it keeps the chat open.
I turn that off as quickly as I can.
Yeah, it's silly, but I mean it's. But
in fact, I
as
turn
a
off
Windows Phone user, I
chat.
see that and I think that's interesting because
there's a few things that'd be nice to have. Yeah.
It's just not available.
Right.
It's just not there.
Audible's done a great job. The Audible app is.
I use that one.
And Dimitri's. And I know there's a couple of Twit apps, but Dimitri's Twit app is fabulous on here. I think it's what's nice is it's native, and so he's done a very nice job of that. So, I mean, this in my opinion is as good as Twit gets on mobile. So there's just a lot of nice things on here. I love the hubs. I mean I love the live tiles of the hubs. I don't actually use the hubs, but they're great for live tiles.
So one thing I'm actually curious about from your opinion, because you use Android regularly and you've used iOS a lot, obviously. What do you think of the notification center in Windows Phone compared to?
They needed to do that. This is fabulous. Yeah. This is a direct copy of Android with the switches up here, the notifications here.
It is exactly the same. Yeah.
But that's exactly what it should be. This works. Everybody. This is now a standard, right, for how to do notifications. Android invented it. Apple copied it, and now it's on Windows Phone. And I think it's perfect. It's just what I want.
Well, Apple made it magical, Leo. But I see what you're saying.
But and I guess that was why I was unhappy with Windows Phone. I think 8.1 really between Cortana. The notification system, it really now, I would say it's very close. And if you live in the Microsoft ecosystem, it should be a no-brainer.
Yep.
This is the best way to be in the Microsoft ecosystem. There's only a handful of apps, and they're almost all from Google that I miss. And that's about it. And there is a Google search app, but there's no plus, there's no voice. Gmail is poor support for Gmail. Those things kind of are deal breakers. For me,
actually, I mean, Gmail Google Calendar native support is not horrible on Windows Phone.
Native support for the calendar is great. Well, see, I'll show you the reason, and this isn't, again, this is because I use Gmail kind of a little differently. I'll show you what I do. I use the tabs, and a lot of people don't. If you don't use the tabs, you'll say, oh, that's fine.
Well, you don't get like a single button archive. You don't get that kind of stuff. Yeah,
there's a few things. But I could live with that. But the problem is this is basically all mail. So in my Gmail, I have, and I find this very useful, primary, social, promotions, updates, and forums. And the Gmail apps on both Android and iOS support this idea. This is a new idea from Google. Microsoft is just dumping it all in one pile, and that's not because as you can see, there's a lot of garbage.
I think that's going to change because in Outlook.com today, they have something, they don't call them tabs, but I'm sorry, I should say in the Mail app on Windows 8, not on Windows Phone, but on Windows 8, They have newsletters, social updates.
Okay.
And,
okay.
You know, and they're sort of they're like database views. They're not actual folders,
yes.
but they're right.
That's what Google's doing.
So,
exactly.
I think that this client will adapt to that way of doing things.
Okay,
as well.
good. That would help a lot because Mail is a fairly important app. I seem to have frozen the phone.
Nice.
There we go. Mail is a fairly important app for me. I can live without Plus, I guess. I can live with Metro Voice. You said there's a good Plus app. What is the Plus app?
Yeah, it's let me see if I can find it.
And you know, it takes a little while to get used to things like the search button is here, you know, in the store and stuff like that. But they've really fixed search. It's not. Remember, it really drove me crazy that search gave me everything.
Yeah,
everywhere.
It's called Google Plus Viewer.
All right, I'll install it.
It's your basic, you know, Google Plus. It's
Viewer's fine.
Like,
yeah, that's fine. The other thing is really annoying, and I guess Microsoft could fix this, is, for instance, this Google Plus with the actual Google logo and then apps for Windows Phone kind of implies, but apps for Windows Phone is actually the name of the company. So that's very deceptive.
You have just amazingly uncovered what I think is the dark underbelly of Windows Phone, which is that their mad race to get apps into the store so they could show some form of, you know, we're competing, has resulted in the most unbelievable lack of oversight.
Yeah.
And
a lot of this stuff should not be in the store.
I tweeted about, what was it, Mary Jo? Do you remember the Flipboard, I think?
Yep.
Flipboard for Windows Phone 8 from Flipboard, Inc.
Ugh.
It looked exactly like the real thing. And it's complete garbage from some third party. And this is, and by the way, that's a mild example of the crap that gets into Windows Phone.
That hurts.
And the other part of this, by the way, is when you search, and you search for something really common, like Facebook's maybe a bad example, but
I searched for Flipboard.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Well, there's no Flipboard app, so actually maybe they finally got rid of it. But
I look at the weird stuff that's in here.
I know it's just
some of it's in Chinese.
You can search for something very specific and come up with stuff that has nothing to do with it before you see the thing you just searched for.
Exactly. But you know what? Apple has that problem. Everybody has that problem.
Well,
it's something to do with metadata.
But, Leo, it's such amateur hour on Windows Phone. It is definitely worse. It's just the sheer, right, Mary Jo? I mean, you've seen what I'm talking about.
It's horrible.
And this is
even trying to find Microsoft apps in the store.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like, nope, that's not a Microsoft
It's
app.
insane.
It looks like it.
Looks just like it. Says something like apps for Windows Phone.
And you know that, like, what do they have? Like some teenage kid who's like playing video games and just approving everything. Well, you know, I don't know.
Well, they need to make this a priority because this is the one complaint now about Windows Phone is apps. So people are going to are judging them on this. So it's not the number.
No, but it's
the quality of the App Store.
ROM emulator stuff is in there with you know actual ROMs from copyrighted video games and other platforms, and
that's cool. Where's that? I'll take that.
Oh yeah, we're not going to promote that. That's my software pick of the week. Actually,
I have to say,
Nintendo 64 library for free.
Following your instructions to install 8.1 couldn't have been easier. They did make that very, very easy, and you know, I mean, this is the Google Plus viewer you're talking about. Yeah, I'll log into my Google account. And that's good. All right. And they have LastPass. If they hadn't had that, that would have been a big problem too. But they have, you know, they have the stuff I need.
To be fair, I mean, the app situation has improved
much
dramatically. I mean,
everything's improved. That's my point. Is I started with Windows Phone at 7.
Oh yeah,
and I just couldn't stick with it. This I could stick with. In fact, I have. I mean, I've been using it all week, and it's great.
Yeah.
You know, there's just a few things missing, but it's not a big deal.